Alright, so how's it going, everybody? It's been way too long since I've uploaded anything. I do need to apologize for that. But as you can see with the title of this video, I'm gonna be talking about trapping. Not just Diglett and Gotita, but rather trapping as a full, complete vision. I'm gonna split this into three groups, which I'm gonna be talking about very truly. First of all, we have the abilities. These include Arena Trap, Shadow Tag, and Magnet Pull. These are the three abilities in LC that are spread throughout a couple of Pokemon, basically. Coincidentally, two each and every of those. Then the other group, Trapping Moves. These, while they are objectively speaking the widest in variety, as you have Block, Infestation, Sand Tomb, such kind of moves, also Fire Spin and such. All these moves are trapping moves. These completely block an opponent from switching out once you are trapped, though they need to be used first and they need to connect. Lastly, you have Pursuit. Now Pursuit I actually keep different from trapping moves, as they don't necessarily prevent the opponent from switching. They pressurize the opponent in that they will be punished for switching rather than preventing them from switching. So I'm going to be viewing that slightly differently, as it actually functions very differently in that regard. So let's start off with the first one, and of course the clearest one. We're going to be talking about Diglett a little bit. I know you people are tired of hearing this, and I know you people don't want to hear more about this from me, simply because what else is there more to say about Diglett? I wanted it to get banned, first of all. Is it that bad though? It has its downsides as well as its positives. It is not a flawless Pokemon. It just limits a certain part of the metagame, especially the balanced metagame, and forces it into a more offensive perspective, especially with the at the time upcoming Drifloon sets. Things were getting more and more active. Because of this, the offensive metagame was pressured by both sheer offensive stalling capability from Drifloon and the offensive pressure that is Diglett. It is this combination between the two that made a very irritating to block combo. Other cores, for example, Shell Dig, Fledge Dig, were still very effective and very good, and they were part of pressuring the viability of Diglett even more in that regard. It did, however, not get banned. So the point stays, it is still usable, it is still fine. Why is it not banned? Because people preferred the offensive metagame, which I have to deal with. I'm not even complaining about it because I'm not even mad of it, because I can still build teams in this metagame. It is not that unbalanced. Is it too unbalanced? No. And this is another discussion I have a slight note to put on. People actually, well, there are few people who still have the mind that trapping as a whole should have been banned. Shadow Tag, any kind of thing. Not necessarily Pursuit, because Pursuit, alongside the other moves that do trapping, are highly ineffective. However, Pursuit in particular is pretty unique, and I'm going to be talking about that later. But for now, trapping, especially abilities, are a very passive way of preventing an opponent from switching. There is nothing you can do about this, and it's simply that combination that made some people just have that mindset. Is Diglett that good that it should have been banned? Still leave that up to discussion, because some people actually regret their decisions during the suspect test, and they actually would have preferred if it was banned after all, which it's too late, and no, there won't be another suspect, and honestly, I actually wouldn't like to get another suspect, because that is just utterly pointless. The other set, the Diglett set that actually was less talked about, the support Diglett set. This one runs Focus Sash, Stealth Rocks, and or Memento. Memento is mostly the combination you want to have. Stealth Rocks is not even necessary. This can also be run on the offensive set. Stealth Rocks just allows you to further support. If anything, even if the team is completely made to deal with Diglett, the opponent's team, you can always put up Stealth Rocks and then go for Memento. It is simply that easy. If anything, you can also be chipping damage with EQ with Life Orbs, don't get me wrong with that, but this can allow for pretty interesting things, especially if it's supported correctly. It can still work very offensively, doesn't even need Stealth Rocks, it can also run Sucker Punch. Focus Sash is just unpreferred considering it misses out on a lot of KOs and works even more unfortunate compared to Gatita in that regard. Now Gatito has two very distinctive different sets. I'm going to be talking mostly about the Choice Scar set and the Eviolite Sleep Talk set, or the Stallbreaker set, also referred to. I'm running a bit faster one in this, I think. I think this is a bit faster than it should have been. Let me just calc. Gotita, Stallbreaker. Yeah, I'm running a bit faster one simply because of how convenient it is. Does that mean it's any much more notable? Not really, honestly. But you get my point. This basically allows for the same stuff. You basically just have less HP in trade of a bit more speed. I just honestly think that speed is pretty necessary, considering it allows you to outspeed, first of all, the 12 speed tier, which is probably the smallest speed tier actually, but it allows you to stop Fletchling from plain going for a U-turn with a 50-50, and this allows you to actually outspeed Fletchling, I'm sorry, which is pretty important. This should also be Psy-Shock instead. Psy-Shock allows you to get past certain Pokemon like Spritzy, which is very important. Psy-Shock also still gets the important KOs on Pokemon like Timber, which is also good. And further special walls, for example Munchlax, are also pressured by this. This is pretty unique considering it, once you are up, allows you to get past some of your most firm answers to your regular set, which is going to be the Choice Scarf set. Though what other positives does this set have? Well, first of all, Gatita is slightly bulkier, 23 HP, 14 defenses. That's pretty balanced defense, honestly. It's not even that great. However, if you take into account the fact that it can trap its opponent and just start setting up special attack and special defense, if a team is too much specially oriented, which some teams are, it is very uncommon in comparison to the offensive physical orientation, as the majority of the meta is physically oriented. There are some sheer special attacking wall breakers, that's a thing, but the fact that you just keep in mind, sheer special attacking wall breakers. Most of the important ones you can name are special on the wall breaking part, or they need to be extremely high in physical attack. I'm looking at Bunnelby, I'm looking at Jump Kick Life Orb Mienfoo. Not necessarily that one, but other Pokemon in that regard that can either set up, become more powerful, or Pokemon like Corphish, who can just demolish anything thanks to its sheer strength. But other Pokemon like Skrelp and such, those are special attackers, and they can just hit past about anything, except for a few special defensive walls, for example Munchlax. And this really allows you to get past even Munchlax, which is great. This is also the best Pokemon in dealing with Fungus, as it not only traps Fungus, it sets up on Fungus if it doesn't have Clear Smog, and it did need to be critting against you in order to completely block it out. Because Fungus, any answer against Fungus has a lot of answers. This one is simply the best. If you're running a bit more HP, it's even going to be better in that regard, but I actually think the speed is a bit handier. Not necessarily better, but handier. So let's go into the Scarf set. The Scarf set has a slight bit of variation in it, though it does have just more stab moves, meaning it's not completely blocked by Dark. It is still going to be blocked by Dark, especially Pursuit Trappers. These are going to be your main issue. Munchlax with this one is fixed, all the other ones you are not going to be able to fix. You can basically run Psychic, Thunderbolt, Energy Ball. These are your 3 main coverage moves. You can, however, keep that in mind, switch Thunderbolt for Hidden Power Fire. Now, why Thunderbolt? Because Thunderbolt is mostly for, first of all, dealing with Fletchling, but also dealing with Vullaby. If you say drop this coverage, you would still be dealing fairly with the majority of the Pokemon, and Energy Ball would still be dealing with the majority of the grass types, especially considering this allows you to at least hit Chinchu and 4 times hits against the rock water types, which is a great thing. I was slightly interrupted there, sorry. As I was saying, this is a Scarf set. It has a slight difference in that you can run Thunderbolt, which is going to be allowing you to deal better against Fletchling, but you can also run Hidden Power Fire. Now, why Hidden Power Fire? Not only will this drop a slight bit of your defense, which you might think, oh, that's not too important. It is pretty important, considering this small difference in defense would make a pretty important difference against, what was it again? 2-hit KOs from very balanced hits, as well as, first of all, Fletchling, but also some other Pokemon that are just physical attackers in general are pretty important. It's just priority moves, for example, I don't remember if it was Sucker Punch, but I thought it was Sucker Punch, that also made the damaging difference. No, that can't be. I don't even remember, dang. I'm sorry. But as I was saying, this is the most common set. Now, why is this so most common, and why is this so good compared to previous generation? Trick. Trick allows you to get past the majority of fat walls. With the exception of Ferocity, Trick allows you to get past, not necessarily Spritzy, though it allows you to deal with Spritzy the majority of the part. But if you're really trying to deal with Spritzy, this is going to be your better option, honestly. Trick allows you to get past fat walls. Pokemon like Porygon are not going to be too hindered by it, though they hate losing their Eviolite and being locked into something. They won't be able to recover as easily, and they will be locked into a certain move. Choice Scarf's Porygon is a thing, but that runs a lot more speed. And it's that kind of difference that makes just fat walls less effective once they are tricked. And once you're tricked, you are going to be bulkier, you're going to take that hit a good chunk better at the least. And you can even sometimes prevent other things from happening, for example, being Thunder Waved right turn after. Because the opponent is going to be locked in, because you were faster, he used a move that hopefully wasn't Thunder Wave, and that's all there is to say. Which is pretty fine. Gothita, this is a fine Pokemon. Is it far? It is. Is it broke? No, far from. Is it a viable Pokemon? Most definitely, especially considering the fact that these combined sets deal with a gigantic ass load of the metagame, which is one of the arguments used that Gothita in fact is more versatile than Diglett, though it only pressures just the more blank perspective of the metagame. But also some colorful elements, for example Fletchling and Minfu, but misses out on offense. The Gothita, this set is still going to be very prone to fight types. Even with this kind of setup, you are going to be 2-hit KO'd by knockoff thanks to your lack of defenses. This set cannot even switch into a knockoff because it's going to lose either his, going to lose first of all his Choice Scarf, and second of all it's going to be mostly one-hit KO'd in a lot of situations, actually. If it's not one-hit KO'd, there always exists that Mach Punch that's going to be picking up that 1 or 2 HP. If you're not even running defense, I think that actually makes a slight difference. I think. Don't get me on that one, though. But Gothita is actually very weak compared to Diglett. Though it is a special attacker and the majority of the metagame is physical, Gothita is still going to miss out on KOs compared to Diglett having that Life Orb and that very powerful stab. Not that Psychic isn't powerful, it's just the lack of Life Orb. And Life Orb in LC is pretty unique, as it literally does a lot more in damage output than you might assume. Then I'm gonna go into Trapinch. Now Trapinch is a poke I always liked. It actually was argued by Levy to move up to C+, which is interesting. Do I think his post should be praised that much? Yeah, most of it is actually very much correct. This one is the one I actually disagreed with most, even though I think it deserves to move up a good bit. C+? It's like C minus C is what I would rate it, simply because of how it actually does a shitload of things, but still fails at a lot of things, simply because of how limited it is, and how Diglett can still, a very big majority of the times, be more effective or more efficient. Though there are some very specific cases where Trapinch can actually fill Diglett's holes, it still fails very often. Because it once does its job, and then it just becomes prone, setup bait, or whatever to a lot of things. Not necessarily setup bait, it's sheer offense. This is another point. This might look like 18 attack, that's a lot more than Life Orb, right? It's actually going to be slightly weaker than Life Orb with 18 attack. Even if you're going to completely blow this to 20, it's still going to be slightly weaker than Life Orb Diglett, just to put in comparison. 20 or 18, not going to make too much of a difference, honestly. And this is why investing more into the HP part is going to be more important, because you're going to be hitting 23-14, which is a very good number. Still misses out on some, but it's a good number, especially considering you with Berry Juice. Well, this specific set should actually be running, say, Eviolite a slight bit better, because this allows you to deal with Poniard better. Though this is another regard, Diglett is going to be slightly better as in there as well. However, the set that I like most with Trapinch is the special defensive set. This allows you to deal with what was it? Scarfed Chinchu. That is a huge thing right there. EQ is your main coverage move. This is going to be hitting very hard. It's going to still be missing out on KOs on a few very bulky Pokemon, which means running an option like Superpower or Toxic especially for Spritzy, Superpower for Porygon. Feint is your priority move. There are very few situations, for example, certain Porygon set, and one other I think it was Bukifu. I might need to be corrected on that if I'm mistaken. That actually pick up the KO. But in any other situation, Feint is better. Why? Because Feint, while it is a 10 points difference, and actually a notable difference in like 1 point of damage output, which is pretty important considering how low damage Quick Attack already is, Feint is a +2 priority move. That means it is going to be able to even speed high with extreme speed, though it is with this low speed that you're basically going to be viewing, okay, I'm going to be faster than Fletchling, which is going to be the biggest part in that regard, because you are going to be able to take out a Fletchling if it has low HP, which is pretty fine. It's also going to be hitting through Protect, which is going to be even more efficient in dealing with Spritzy if you are that insane with predictions. Rock Slide is going to be complete mandatory. Rock Slide EQ is just necessary coverage. Sucker Punch, I also forgot to say, it runs Substitute to deal with Poniard more effectively, because you have the Mind Game of Sucker Punch and all that. Trapinch doesn't really fear that much as long as it's using Eviolite. Even with this spread, if you use Eviolite, you should be fine, because you're taking much less damage from Berry Juice. Berry Juice is mostly important because it allows you to get back to full HP, or nearly full HP, missing 1 HP, say, after being hit by Chinchu using Scald, as long as you're not burned, you're going to be picking up that KO. That's pretty freaking good. Good, isn't it? Yeah, I thought so. Superpower is another option. I just prefer Toxic simply because it's going to be withering down Porygon anyway. Like, I don't really want to be using Trapinch like that, though you can perfectly use it, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be even more withering it down thanks to Superpower lowering first of all your attack and your defense. It's going to be, it just simply doesn't hit too much. it's mostly going to be hitting Porygon, and that's honestly not too worth it, considering Toxic would still allow you to beat it, or at least wither it down to the point that it's really just irritating. It's really just irritating for him to do something else. Then we're going to move on to why not. Now, don't judge too much by the spread I made. This was just to not forget that this even existed. Some people swear by this spread, especially the speedy part, and some other people discussed it. I simply didn't know too much to even argue about that, because I'm still not even gonna touch my hands on that specific subject because of how weak people seem to be on that. But I'm going to be viewing it from both sides. First of all, you have the bulky set, which is going to be the most important one, because that allows you to take the most hits and counter the most damage back from both counter and mirror coat, which is going to be your physical attack counter and your special attack counter. This is going to allow it for very wide versatility, and it's going to be able to block very strong physical attackers that are just plain physical attackers. Mindless, playing mindless things, just damaging everything. Encore allows you to even more effectively force opponents into that, or force opponents into being setup bait. If you're talking about being more setup bait, you can also run Tickle, which is going to be simply your, well, Tickle and Charm. Charm is going to be lowering attack, which is better against physical attackers if you're going to be trying to make pure setup bait of them. Tickle is going to be more effective if you want to just simply bring your opponent down for physical attackers to setup, especially considering how effective this deals with, first of all, the physical orientation of the metagame, and second of all, the fact that you are going to be using physical attackers. So it's very specific. I've never really seen people make good use of Tickle. I've not seen people make good use of Why Not. I have seen that, but not much. Not much at all. But it has viability, and it sure has a lot of options, especially considering Destiny Bond, lovely move, is going to be able to even allow you, even if you're low on HP, but you think you can survive, just use Destiny Bond. If you're using it with a faster spread especially, it's going to be more effective, especially against, say, Timber. Timber is going to be knocking off your item, and you're just going to, well, not necessarily die first place, but if you're already a bit more worn, that's gonna be heavy damage. Safeguard can also be used, lastly. Deals with Spore from Fungus mostly, and that's about it. Most recommended to actually run a bit faster spread for that, simply because Fungus already has 8 speed, you're gonna be at 7 speed naturally, so running a bit of speed is a bit necessary for that. Once again, there is a bit of versatility in this. It's a very blank thing, like dealing with stuff. It's very good for creating setup bait compared to revenge killing. Creating setup bait in this specific one, revenge killing, and literally sweeping thanks to your setup ability itself. And this is revenge killing simply trapping as a removal of a Pokemon rather than being able to revenge kill. Like these two are able to revenge kill very effectively. This thing is gonna be more gonna block specific things and one time take something away and trade with your own Pokemon, which is fine, really. Now we're gonna move on to the other group. Now why the other group rather than Pursuits? Because I want to keep Pursuit till the very end. So what do we have on trapping? We still have the ability Magnet Pull and Magnet Pull. There are two Pokemon that have this ability. Magnemite, which is going to be viable, and we have Nosepass, which doesn't even have a stat with this ability. I don't get why this is even recommended in the Rules Compendium. Many Pokemon got just simply wiped as, okay, we could use it with that. This simply seemed to be just put there as filler simply because it had that ability, even though it doesn't even have the potential to deal with any Pokemon at all with your ability. With the exception of Ferroseed, and even then, you're not even going to be able to one-hit KO that thing with Fire Punch, which is your strongest coverage move against Ferroseed. With 15 physical attack, You need berry juice in order to survive something. Sure, you're not going to be able to run just life orb on this, even though, well, you objectively could, but that would be just utter redundant, because you can just use magnet might with... Oh god damn it, what happened here? I don't even know what happened. I don't even know what happened here. What did this thing run? Thunderbolt, yeah, Thunderbolt. Right. Verified twice, what? Like, this doesn't even exist. This in itself doesn't even exist, so it shouldn't even be here. Which is simply gonna be noting it like this. Don't use this. Don't think this exists. Ignore magnet pull exists. Nosepass has a pretty fine set with 30 and like its special coverage with just electric moves, dazzling gleam, earth power. Those are pretty great moves, honestly. Even it has power gem, which is a rare, strong special rock type move, which is unique. And that's about it. It also has stealth rocks and volt switch, which is going to be very important that I note that as well. Then we have Magnemite. Now Magnemite actually has a couple of options in this regard. It can run Magnet Pull with HP Fight and Magnet Pull with HP Fire. This set is going to be dealing with Barnyard, because, oh damn Lord, Barnyard, this needs to be removed. It just creates a lot of setup opportunity for a lot of Pokemon. For example, Shelter, which is very important to keep in mind. It is also able to remove opposing Magnemite, as long as they don't run Hidden Power Ground, which is the biggest thing you need to worry about. Though Hidden Power Ground isn't too common as Hidden Power Grass also exists, as well as Thunderbolt, as well as Ender, which are all 3 moves that you really want to be running. Hidden Power Grass and Ground really are the splits of the same slot, really. It just hits different things and hits it very effectively. For example, Ground hits other opposing Magnemite, Hidden Power Grass hits ground types. That's important. Especially with the uprising sets for Pokemon like Hippo. I'm later gonna talk about that specifically. But what is this set about? This is basically a bulkier Magnemite set that's gonna be able to take down a hit from Magnemite and take it down with Hidden Power Fight. This is gonna be a slow pivot. This is bulky. I hate using that word because it sounds so stupid, but it works like this. You can also run Choice Scarf with an offensive set, of course, with Hidden Power Fire to deal with, say, Ferroseed, yeah, of course, with Ferroseed, but that's about it, honestly. So then we go into the only slightly even viable move user, and the only reason why this is slightly viable is because these two are both filler. Both Infestation as well as Toxic are filler. Toxic is disgusting in LC. There are very few Pokemon that even make use of Toxic, and there are very few Pokemon that can viably make use of Toxic. What does this Pokemon have that makes it viable? Basically, its ability is going to be very interesting in blocking certain Pokemon. For example, Spore from Fungus, though it's not going to be able to do much back. It gets Spikes, it gets Recover, it has great defense, decent special defense, and alright HP. So all these things combined make up for a very solid Pokemon. Now why? Seriously, why is it still not too viable? Maybe it has something to do with sheer lack of offense. I think that's it, yeah. It also gets Spikes to combine with Recover, allowing it to get up spikes and just support this team. But that's about all there is to say, honestly. It can run some physical and special coverage moves. For example, it can run Bug Buzz, Energy Ball, and what was it, Sludge Bomb, I think? Yeah, Sludge Bomb. Or Pursuit on the physical side. It's something. This one, however, runs Infestation, which is going to be your only move in trapping your opponent. It does about 0 damage, so don't think it's even used for damage. It's simply the side effect that's important. Toxic is simply to get even more withered damage on your opponent. It simply means you are a gigantic taunt bait. Not that taunt is too common in LC compared to, well, you basically have Taunt Fu, and that's the majority of taunt users by itself. Um, but yeah. Then we're gonna go into Hippo. Now this is a set I actually made, and this using just Sandstorm over EQ just simply means it's gonna be less viable. Which just sounds stupid, but that's how it is. You're gonna be less viable. Why do I still recommend? Well, not recommend, but try to oppose its merit for this, rather than suggest it's viable in any freaking regard. Already saying that it's not viable, don't use it, though I do want to point out there is certain merit in this. Hippo has the ability to trap opponents with Sand Tomb. It's going to be doing very little damage, but at least some. Against a super effective opponent, it's basically going to be able to allow you to just do below 50%. Which is unfortunate considering Hippo already needs its KOs. Toxic is basically going to work in a bit of a combo with Sandtube in this regard, as once you trap something with Sandtube, it's either going to be very much prone to the side effect damage, and this is again, what is the merit in this? Chipping damage very slightly, that's all there is. Whirlwind is also a good option, don't get me wrong, but this is simply going to be stalling your opponent down bit by bit by bit. You're going to be able to get sand damage from it, you can sand tomb damage from it, which is the trapping recital damage, and then toxic damage if additional. Additional if you're not already using a side effect like burn or toxic spikes or anything really. So it's really just going to be chipping damage alone. Stealth rocks can be used in combination. You can also run rock slide if you prefer. Do not run whirlwind in combination with it, please. Please. Lastly, we have steel. This is a valid set. This is a niche, and it sucks in every single regard. It doesn't work, it doesn't function, and it just sucks. How does it work? You you person song, and then you whirlpool. That's how it works. That order, nothing else. You whirlpool first, then you song, doesn't work. Your opponent's gonna be able to switch the last turn, in which Songwoofer will try to get something down. That's how it is. No, wait. What am I saying? No. I think actually I need to correct myself on that. That is incorrect order. I'm sorry. You need to whirlpool and then you need to song, if I remember correctly. Dang. Regardless, it is simply the fact that once you whirlpool or anything, anyone is gonna, because it is first of all a niche, anyone is gonna expect it. Anyone is gonna go into something that resists either water type moves or is gonna be able to one hit KO you in return. And believe me, there are many things that are immune to water and many things that are gonna be able to one hit KO you. Even with this bulkier spread of 24 HP, 16, that is great defensive stats. But still, you're a water type and you're very much prone to electric type, especially Magnemite, still very much prone to Chinchu, still very much prone to momentum Pokemon, and you are simply inferior in that regard. You are very much prone to a lot of things, simply because of how slow you are, how weak you are, and even with this nice combination of Rest and Rain Dance, you're mostly gonna be prone to being one-hit KO'd once your item has been knocked off, and someone has already moved out with U-turn. And that's all there is with the moves. Unviable. Well, okay, slightly viable simply because of filler. Merit having, but very much unviable because of not being able to trap anything. And this thing, simply bad. I'm sorry. Now lastly we have Pursuit, and I kept this one last because it is so important. Why Pursuit? Pursuit damages your opponent and is a very good way of revenge killing once the opponent has been slightly worn down. The best Pursuit user in this regard would be Pawnyard, as Pawnyard simply with Pursuit is a bit of an unexpected option compared to, well, people still actually run Brick Break alongside this other coverage move. So Pursuit over time has just been viewed rather negatively compared to what Brick Break actually does, as it allows you to hit opposing Poniard, which is a great thing, really. Again, anything wants to deal with Poniard, holy shit. It may look like it's centralizing. It's not centralizing, it is simply because a lot of people just want to have something to deal with Poniard. Why? Because it's an irritating Pokemon to deal with. It has very great offensive coverage with just its 2 moves. It has a lot of irritating moves like Pursuit, Sucker Punch, Knockoff, and the side effect of flinching with Iron Head, which is kind of funny that I actually mentioned that. But it's mostly the Scarf set that's going to be running Pursuit, because that's the most efficient set in that regard. Oh well. Some people actually swear suggesting Adamant is actually a better option for Pursuit. I prefer the speed, especially considering you're already necessarily running Scarf. Like, this is going to be allowing you to outspeed 15 speed Cotita and 15 speed Magnemite, both of which are pretty important considering they... Well, Cotita you're meant to deal with, and Barnard is going to be a bit of a problem if it actually hits you, so... Then we have Sandal. Now, I actually put in the Life Orb set simply because I prefer the Life Orb set, but I also put in the Choice Scarf set. Now, once again, some people swear by using Adamant, some people swear by using Jolly. I prefer Jolly, some prefer Adamant. Why? I honestly don't know. I honestly do not know. Now, what does this set run? Basically, you run Fire Fang or Stone Edge. Fire Fang is going to be able to hit Ferroseed, as well as Bronzor, I think, and Pokemon like Fungus, especially Cotton. Cotton, that was super one there, right? Cotton. That's pretty decent, right? Like, this is not even, oh yeah, I forgot to say, this is not ordered by viability in any regard. The only reason why I put this so closely is because I found it to be pretty important to note right now, especially considering it was argued for like the past 3 months, I think, to move up. Pursuit is going to be allowing you to pressure your opponent, especially with your Moxie ability. Now, this is why I prefer Life Orb. Once you get that +1 Moxie boost thanks to Pursuit, it is the only Pokemon to get this combo, by the way. It has 17 speed, 16 attack, that's pretty decent. Stats overall are also alright, 22 HP and 10 defenses. That's good for offensive Pokemon. It's just unfortunate that Life Orb actually takes 2 HP every time. Oh well. To put it basic, once you get that +1 boost, you're going to be very trending. You're going to be 17 speed, +1, you have Stone Edge, Stab EQ, a boosted Pursuit. Like, Crunch is actually important on this Pokemon simply because of how strong it is. It's going to be able to pick up a KO against Cotita, which is important, but also to it KOing Pokemon like Pumpkaboo and all that kind of stuff. So that's also good to notice. Fire Fang is mostly to hit, again, Ferroseed, and again, Cottonee, especially Cottonee considering it can just... Well, it can still block you, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be able to check you even more. With Fire Fang, you are going to be pressuring that opponent you are going to pressure that ball of cotton very, very much. Sandal is going to be Choice Scarf, that's going to be faster, which is going to be very important in dealing with opponents more efficiently, though it's still going to be failing in some regard. And you need to be honest with that. This is not a rank viability Pokemon like Poniard, but this is simply just a C+ rank Pokemon, and I view it in any single way as that. Nothing else, just that viable. It is a slight difference in the sense, especially as this allows you to at least do stuff after. Pardon me, my voice is really dry. This is going to allow you to still get the important KOs, and it's going to allow you to get the important KOs, but you're going to be lacking in speed. This is going to be lacking in offense, so it's a 50-50 in that regard. Try to use it efficiently, try to use it as it should be. Then we have the Life Orb set for Houndour. Houndour has two sets like this. You have the Scarf set and the Life Orb set. Very much the same in that regard, as they are both 17 speed. Though Houndour is a mixed attacker. It has Sucker Punch, it has Pursuit, it has Dark Pulse and Fire Blast. It can also be running a rare Flame Charge, though I do not prefer that coverage simply because it can be run over either Dark Pulse or Fire Blast. Unpreferred, as you simply need your last coverage move to be something like Destiny Bond, simply because of how it functions. I do value that, don't get me wrong, I do value that. Well, actually you don't need it, but it's more preferred in my opinion. As for the Scarf set, Pursuit, just as simple as Barnyard, is going to be very importantly in threatening opponents. Destiny Bond, once again, is going to be very handy, as once you're faster, you are going to be very irritating being brought down, though you are very easy setup bait. You are the most prone thing you can imagine for setup bait once you're going in Scarf Destiny Bond. It's like Scarf Sucker Punch is unpreferred. People still end up running Brick Break more effectively. It's unpreferred once again, mostly because of being setup bait. Then we're gonna go into Munchlax. Now Munchlax, unlike the other ones, is a more defensive Pokemon. It has a lot of special defense, a lot of HP, and great attack as well. It's a defined tank. Now this set specifically runs Recycle. Recycle, Body Slam, and Fire Punch. This is I think, the standard coverage right now. Yeah, Take Fat is not too. It's literally your only viable ability besides Pickup. Pickup is bad, really. It's even gonna hinder your ability of Recycle plus Berry Juice, which you are gonna be able to do unlike the majority of Pokemon. This thing, you're kind of staying away from knockoff anyway because you're very weak in physical defense. But your special defense, you are the single best special wall in all of LC. And arguably the overall best special wall. Now, why the single best? Simply because of how effectively it deals with smashers. You are gonna look at Pokemon like Laleep, who can reach higher special defense, or Mantike, as those simply deal with smashers more effectively, with the rest are said. Laleep just can hit higher special defense, so I actually need to make another video about special and physical split, but I'm gonna do that after a long time. I'm not gonna upload that anytime soon. Don't hope for that, don't even think about that. Then we're gonna go a bit further. Stunky, B ranked viable Pokemon. Some argue it to be a big flop Pokemon that should be moved down, much like Trubbish actually is. And some argue Trubbish should even be moved down even more, which I honestly don't even complain about because that's correct. What is there to say about Stunky? Stunky is simply its typing, which brings me to my main point. Is Pursuit abusable to the point it should be banned? And unhealthy? It's unhealthy. It's greatly offensive. It works. And it actually is very much abusable on certain teams. Though it is only abusable against a very specific offensive threat. I'm looking at Abra, Ghastly, and all that kind of stuff. Those are some of the greatest wall breakers in the game. Those are some of the strongest Pokemon in the game. And you did need sheer offensive attack, stab, and or setup, except if you're Sandal, because then you have Moxie, to effectively make use of Pursuit and do something after that. Stunky is simply going to be your trap. It's going to need a Sucker Punch and Pursuit to effectively deal with both Abra and Ghastly in extreme measures. Not that it needs Sucker Punch, it's very much important, really. But also Pokemon like Gotita. One set is completely walled and the other one is just still walled very much. Which I should make a small note too. There exists a use of a set that uses, instead of Sleep Talk, Thunderbolt, just to not be completely walled by dark types. It still doesn't allow you to do much. It also does a bit more in coverage terms, but The thing that actually saves Stunky is the fact that it has defog, is not weak to Barnyard, so it can actually fire off a Fire Blast. Has Aftermath, if anything, to punish Barnyard, bringing it down for sure, because 2 Fire Blasts is gonna do enough. Stunky really just wins against Barnyard, keep that in mind. Stunky is one of the very few defoggers that can win against Barnyard alongside EQ Archon, anti-Barnyard Willoughby, and Stunky. Those are the 3. All the other ones, not really. You have the spinners being Staryu and Trilbur, who can deal with Barnyard, don't get me wrong. It's just you prefer to use it like this. Like, this is a good answer against that, but it also deals with trappers, with special attackers, especially Psychic and Ghost types. So yeah. Well, Ghost types only Ghastly, honestly. Then we have Zorua. Now Zorua is unique in that it's, unlike Stunky, who has the niche of defog and support, who can also be running, say, Memento or a Life Orb set with Taunt, that is still unpreferred. You hit 18 speed, which is huge, but you are still gonna be very weak. Zorua has the Illusion, however. Illusion has both the ability as well as what it can do. It can set up a Sword Dance, which is gonna be your offensive allowing thing. Once you're setting up Sword Dance, people notice, oh, you are the Zorua at that point. They want to switch out. Pursuit is going to be allowing you to actually wither something down or make something very much prone, allowing you to actually beat that thing more efficiently. Are you going to be able to do this too much? No. Is this going to be working in your favor of chipping damage more effectively? Yes, if you do it properly. This can be done very, very well, actually. Is it too much abusable? Actually, no. No, actually. But that's all there is to say. The Pokemon isn't all too viable by itself, though with Pursuit it can do some pretty merit-having things. It's still very much arguable, considering the special set is also great. The mix set is even greater, and you get my point. You can also run Memento over U-turn. U-turn just ships more damage if you're going to be able to outspeed your opponent, which with 17 speed is pretty the majority of times, honestly. Why does this thing not just run 16? You should, mostly because you are using Sword Dance, because once you get the Sword Dance boost, this is going to be very important. You are going to try to avoid getting hit anyway, so yeah. Now we're going to go into Cranidos, another Scarf Pokemon. You don't need Scarf, you can also run Life Orb, though with Life Orb, well actually with Life Orb it's in my opinion even more preferred if you use Pursuit, because Pursuit allows you to, in that moment, trap your opponent. You're gonna hit him very, very, very hard with the Life Orb, but you receive a little bit of Life Orb recall. Majority of your moves, like Rock Slide, Zen Headbutt, these 2 moves especially, are gonna be boosted by Sheer Force, which is also going to be taking away your Life Orb recall, and that's great for it. Choice Scarf, however, is going to allow it to be faster, because it only has 15 or 16 speed. This is 24 attack, this is like the max it can go. I still prefer going for Charlie on this. Though with this, for the sake of explaining it, Pursuit is going to be a bit better for the chipping damage part. This is simply a sheer wall breaker. It has very few things that actually want to switch out from it. Just happens to be precisely those things that you're going to be trying to pursue, because they're going to think you might be Mold Breaker, and it's precisely that what you want to hope for when going for a Pursuit. Because you're going to be using more of Cheer Force, which is going to be working better in combination with Zen Headbutt, then Mold Breaker plus EQ, which is going to be a bit better against dealing with Ghastly. Like Pursuit is going to give you that coverage. Not that Rock Slide wouldn't otherwise, but Pursuit is going to be allowing you to trap your opponent like that. Well, it's not actually necessarily for Mold Breaker for that, but also Pokemon like Magnemite, Sturdy Pokemon, that kind of stuff. which you're going to be hitting with very powerful EQ. Now, Apom, some people hate this Pokemon, some people like this Pokemon. It's very strong, I get the joke. Some really just hate me for just explaining this Pokemon and putting it on this list, but I have to talk about it anyway. Apom has some pretty good positives, and some pretty big negatives. First of all, its HP in combination with Life Orb is a bit unfortunate, though it does have sheer wall-breaking force with Fury Swipes. Though it only has 80 accuracy and only 18 power, this is an insane roll if combined with Life Orb. This is going to be very much damaging against about anything that isn't a very defensive wall or a rather defensive wall. And knowing it still has knockoff, it still has a lot of other options to chip damage like fake out, you are still gonna be hitting extraordinarily hard, especially considering you're a 19 speed Pokemon and you don't even have too much attack. Though it is pretty punishable. By switching in, say, Ferroseed or switching in Ponyta and that kind of Pokemon. Ferroseed is going to be pretty forced with Fire Punch by itself, and Ponyta, there's not much. And this is where Pursuit really comes in. Your opponent that you have for right now, that's not going to be resisting Pursuit, or else it's going to be mostly a Dark type, which Brick. And if it is a Dark type, like say Pawniard, then it's going to be staying in. So you are going to be able to go for Brick. This is a very wall-breaking set. This has pretty fine coverage combined and has a pretty good combination. Your normal typing also allows you to deal more effectively against specifically Abra, because you have Fury Swipes and 19 speed. This is very deadly combination considering Fury Swipes. If it hits, even Sash Abra is going to die to that. And 19 speed, you're going to speed high, so even if it happens to be a Life Orb set, it doesn't even care. The Eviolite set is going to be able to take a hit even, which is why this one actually runs U-turn, because it's going to be scouting a bit more. Life Orb also, once again, there isn't much you can do against fire types. You basically just want to make more use of Pursuit. Pursuit is on this one even. I think this one only runs knockoff, doesn't even run Pursuit, but I just want to have the point of that this could also run Pursuit effectively because of the combination, but this is preferred because I literally just explained to you what the great coverage of this is. Like, this is forces. The case is that these two moves combined don't force or do force something out. Pursuit is going to be fixing all the other parts between, or not all, but the majority of the parts. And lastly, we have Honedge. And I kept this Pokemon not necessarily for last, but this is actually a pretty interesting one because this reminds me of the point. People are using more and more Shadow Abra than before. Like, I know it has dropped a little bit, but it still was very high in the past month's usage. And that all reminds me of how greatly people are anticipating Honedge, or anticipating Drifloon, or anticipating Gothita. All these three Pokemon with Abra. That's freaking irritating. Meaning Pursuit is going to be even less effective in that regard because you really just want to have Shadow Sneak that freaking much. As well as its Stab. Shadow Sneak is Stab. Just like Shadow Claw, it's Stab. This one doesn't even really run this move, and still I'm recommending this in a certain way. Sacred Roar is necessary coverage, Iron Head is necessary coverage, Sword Dance, this one I think runs Autotomize with Shadow Claw. I actually changed the set up a little bit so you get more of an idea that it can run Sword Dance, and with Pursuit that combination can be really threatening, though it's not going to be too much considering fight types are still going to demolish you, so yeah, but that's about all I can say about the Trappers. Yeah, that's actually the full video. Sorry that it spent so long, but I also got interrupted a little bit. I tried to make it shorter, but I really wanted to cover this completely as I possibly could, explain the majority of the parts. Some Pokemon I meant over a bit roughly, for example, Houndour, but do keep in mind, these Pokemon are ranked. Just look up their viability rank, it's a very important part in understanding these Pokemon. Their viability rankings will tell them a lot. The Pursuit set is a majority of the times less effective, with the exception of for Stunky. Even right now, Munchlax's Pursuit set is even dropping in usage because I just explained to you, people are literally evolving and more, because you even have Abra with knockoff more, because it deals with Munchlax more effectively, and it deals with Magnemite. Both Scarf Magnemite on the switch in and the Berry Juice Magnemite on switch in, which is both very important. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. Next, on small note, and that's actually a good thing that I actually forgot to upload this, because I missed my complete entire point during that video. I explained everything about the sets, I forgot to explain why I made this video. I made this video simply because I wanted to show how good, even in an evolved metagame, trappers could still adapt and deal with the things they should be dealing with. I'm looking at mostly Diglett, which is offensively going to be able to pierce through balanced metagame, which is a very important part in dealing with Pokemon like Why Not? And Seal. However, the Pokemon like Stalbrigo Gatita, Trapinch, and Why Not are very good Pokemon at dealing with the defensive metagame, which on its own turn is going to be good against Diglett and offensive Gatita. So you have a very good configuration between those two. Then you have the fact that the abilities exist. Now first of all, you have the Arena Trap ability, which is only going to be trapping things that are not airborne. So Levitate and Flying users are immune to it. Ghost types, or aka just Honedge and Pumpkaboo, are immune to trapping as well. They are immune to it regardless. Shadow Tag, however, does not have this limitation to ground and flying types. It is still, however, not able to prevent ghost types from escaping. And it also does not prevent opposing Shadow Tag Pokemon from escaping. This is simply for the Shadow Tag situation of a Shadow Tag user like Wobbuffet versus Wobbuffet. They're not going to be able to switch out in such a situation, so they actually made that to be enabled. Ejecting Pokemon choose to switch unless they also have this ability. For trace Pokemon like Porygon, this is pretty handy, but that's where it ends. Magnet Pull only works for Steel types, easy as that. And then you have Pursuit, and this is where the Ghost part fits in. Pursuit, limit ghosts. So you have a very big full cycle in that regard. So that really just makes the configuration of, it doesn't matter how you turn the coins, trappers are going to be able to adapt and have full versions of options in a lot of regards, so that's just how it is. I hope this video was quite clear to you guys, so Ryan out.